I'm Kathryn Davis, your host, and my guest today is Marina Shakour Haber. And I'm actually very excited about this interview. We're going to be talking about her new book, Dream a Better Dream, Change Your Mind and Save the World. Even if the body were nourished with the best nutrients and exercised well, the toxic mind will negate all those benefits and rob any possibility of a life well lived. It robs you from having healthy relationships, successful careers, and happy families. Your mind is in charge, allowing your negative thoughts to taint your essence and to destroy the real you. And Marina was actually born into a line of highly psychic women from her mother, maternal grandmother, and her great-grandmother, where the paranormal was normal. And she was actually born in Tehran, Iran, in 1955. She lived there until she was 8 years old when her parents moved her to Munich, Germany. She spent time in Paris, where she studied, and now lives, I believe, in British Columbia, or is it the United States now, Marina?
It's in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Florida, excellent. So I just want to say hello. Thank you for joining me today. And
Hello,
I would start by saying I'm so excited about your book because it challenges sort of the common nomenclature of the so-called spiritual movement, and that it's so grounded in reality and gives us very, very practical ways of understanding spirituality in the world in which we live. So I really thank you and commend you for that.
Thank you.
And I would love to hear a little bit more about yourself so that people can connect with you on a personal level. Tell us a little something about yourself and your connection through your maternal line and how that brings you to this place of spiritual understanding.
My mother was very much a very psychic person, and when she wrote a book, The Missing Truth, in, I think it was 1997, that we published it. And it was around that time that I went through one of the greatest difficult moments in my life. And it was an existential moment. I did not know where the money would come from the next day. And it was bad. I was pregnant with my second child. And my mother said to me, very, very simple words, but they stuck with me for a lifetime. She said, "This is the moment when you have to realize you can't walk it alone anymore. You need to reach out to your spirit guides. You need help from the other side. You need support. You can't do it." And so she taught me to pray. And not that I didn't, but it was a different kind of prayer. And so what I really started was my path to a prayer meditation. And I did it while I was jogging because that was the only moment I could get away from the family. The mom, can you help me? So it was in jogging that I was alone in nature. And I connected and started seeing the world from a different point of view. And it was of such enormous help because suddenly the burden of the experience was lifted. It was light. And I knew that everything would be fine in the end. I would receive help. Everything would be fine, and it was. Then it happened again that I lost my business because markets changed, and frankly, it was no longer my path. And now I turned to daily meditation, and I have to tell you, nothing has been of greater benefit in my life than that daily meditation, that connection to the source within, to our divinity within, the heart. And it raised my vibrations, my frequency, and it has kept me healthy it's now in my 5th year, not one cold, no illness. So to me, it is the greatest secret that should really not be kept a secret any longer, and we should all be practicing it more because we're doing something for ourselves and we spread that because we feel better about ourselves. So we spread that positivity to others, and that's a truly positive movement.
Excellent. And I would like to go into your book by looking at the bigger picture and sort of honing down into how you go about teaching people to empower themselves. So maybe you can begin by, I'm looking at the book itself, and I like the way it begins because it really sets us into the world as it exists.
Yeah.
When we wake up in the morning and look around and look at the TV and we see the wars and we see the chaos, and you deal with that in your first chapter, The Age of Chaos. And the reason I feel this is important is because too often I speak to spiritual teachers and healers with the best of intentions, but have this notion that we can somehow blank out all this reality and forge a path that doesn't acknowledge what's happening around us. So I would love for you to talk more about this, how to acknowledge this age of chaos that we're in, because there are very serious things going on, and part of the problem, as you describe in your book, is we almost get sucked into those problems if we're not paying attention. We become one of the players within the chaos.
Yeah, we become the perpetuators of the events, and that is part of the negativity, that it's like a process. So I looked at it, and again, like you, I said the spiritual path is a distancing from the reality, but the bottom line is we do live in this physical reality, and it is precisely this that we need to change. So not accepting it or ignoring it is not going to, in my opinion, cure the problem. So then I searched for what was really the problem, what went wrong. And so I found this information through the Spirit Joseph, that it is we as angelic children, millennia ago, have manipulated the energy balances between physicality and spirituality, and not as a religion, but as energies. There are two energies. And we took more of we sped up the spiritual and withdrew the physical, the negative. And what happened is we created a world, a universe that lost its ethereal qualities and became physical, heavy, and repetitive. It's like we're stuck in the mud. And so when I looked at our history, I saw the patterns repeating over and over again. From one great civilization to the next, you see it's a repeat performance. And now we are here at a critical time in our existence where we have so much nuclear weaponry that we can really obliterate our Earth. So we need to not work with the same methodology that we've used for millennia, because it has brought exactly the same results. So I found that what we have to do is change our way of thinking. We can only do this now by a different form of movement. And the movement is with more light, with more spirituality, again, as an energy. Put more light and love into your heart and send that out. It may sound naive, but that's precisely how the world was created, through the collective thoughts that changed, that decided to make this world a different experience, and change the energy balances. We can now collectively change it back again to this more crystalline, ethereal universe where we're not stuck in the mud. We experience and then we move on, upward and forward, versus a circular, repetitive experience. And so understanding that, to me, there is hope, there is a way out, and each person has to be the beginning of a movement, but it requires more than one. So we need to collect souls and change thinking and go forward and really make this a better world for all. It's not that we shouldn't be experiencing. We all need to experience, but we can experience and grow through love and light versus to pain and suffering and fear. That's the biggest difference between the two. Experience and change is part of God. It's part of who we are. But the pain and suffering, the fear, the lack, that is physicality. That's the abnormality of our universe.
That is very powerful. I would like, if you could, to, for a minute, just take a step back. And you were speaking of getting the inspiration of Joseph.
Yes.
And you briefly described how the world was originally created and then how we sort of got into this trap of the circular movement. I'm not sure that I quite grasped what that process was and exactly what you were saying. Could you repeat that for me or expand on that?
It is complex. It is complex. So I will try to do my best. So it started like this. There's God as the being. And God wanted to experience different parts, separate parts of himself. So by doing that, each one of us is a part of the whole. It's like we are a drop of water in the ocean. We are individual, yet we are part of the whole. And so each part of us viewed the whole from a different perspective. And in the beginning, so we are divine, we are part of God, but we looked at him from the outside in. And through time, we wanted to give our individuality or our individuality a little bit more form. So there was a little bit more of the physical added. So therefore we became individual but not separate. And we experienced through illusions. We created illusions and we experienced them, and then we reported back as a circular action again back to the Godhead, reported our findings to God and to the group of other individualized angelic beings. Over time, our particular group of angelic beings were dissatisfied with the slowness of the experiences. We wanted, as young angelic beings, wanted to move forward faster. At that point, we decided that if we would withdraw from the physical, we would withdraw the physical out of this perfect balance and speed up the spiritual energies. So think of the heart. If you put more, on one side than the other, if something is blocked in the other, the body will break down. And this is precisely the same thing that happened here. We created an imbalance, and that created this physicality of our body, the mass and the density that we find ourselves in. It's, when you look at my book, I give an example to make that a little bit easier to understand. If you take, again, water has different forms. If you heat it up, it becomes steam. And if you cool it down, the steam becomes water again. If you freeze it, it becomes hard as a rock. Yet it is still water. It is just simply changing the energy around it. So we are at this point in a very physical mode, and therefore the illusions that we used to create to experience in that we could simply deconstruct, like you have a set on the movie theater, you simply deconstruct it and you go to your next play. Now it decomposes, it decays because it's material, it's heavy. And there's a difference. One is voluntary, one is because there's no other way. And again, it becomes this same repetitive motion. We cannot deconstruct and say, I dealt with this, I go to the next course, higher and more refined. It's always the same. We can't break out of it because we're stuck in this illusion. And that's because it is so physical. It lacks the balance of spiritual energy. And we can get that in by putting it back into ourselves and sharing and sending it out through our thoughts and simply through the light we give off into our surroundings, into the world. Again, thoughts travel, so we can change the frequency and the vibration of this earth through our thoughts.
Excellent.
Is this better for you?
Yeah, it gives a very clear picture for me. So my question then is, as we are sort of tumbling around in this, which seems to be a perpetual cycle of history repeating itself, it would seem that it'd be very difficult to distinguish or to judge anyone that's participating in this, no matter how awful we might think these behaviors are. There's a way in which we have to take a collective responsibility for what's happening rather than blaming each other. If you agree, or how would you expand on that?
You're absolutely right. It is what I found with looking at our origin like that is, first of all, we take the blame away. We can stop blaming God, because really it's not God. We made that decision. And we make every day the same decisions again. So the blame is off. We can look at ourselves, and once we learn to accept responsibility, it changes the formula. It changes the equation. We now are in charge. We did it. We can undo it. But equally, as you just said, it also makes us all equal in this. And even the worst offender needs to be enlightened, because we need each and every one. I always, when I started thinking about that, I thought that was an insurmountable obstacle. But on the other hand, if we see it with the Me Too movement, when it was one person complaining and saying something, nobody gave it credit. But when a whole movement was created, suddenly it changed the scenario. It changed the way it was perceived, and the same is here. So if we get more enlightened people, and each one helps the other and tries to educate, and first of all starts with themselves, we create a movement, and by that, it forms like you form like an energy that everything else is attracted to. So it creates something. And yes, we do need to look at the worst offenders with love and kindness and non-judgment, because they frankly need the most help to get us out of it. So, yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. The one thing that I would ask you about is what I hear about this phenomena, this understanding, seems to be taking a little out of balance from my perspective, in that to understand this doesn't mean to allow or sanction horrible behaviors and toxic, harmful behaviors, and that we have some responsibility to have beyond, the positive impact is important, but there are other concrete things we can do in our lives that can have a positive impact on people or to stop harm. So, and the other thing that I find very confusing in this whole thought process is I've heard it say that anytime something happens to someone, well, they just chose to come here, and so I don't have to think about it. I don't have to do anything about it. Doesn't concern me, because on the soul level, they chose to be raped, or they chose to have a bomb drop on their head, so it's not my concern. And to me, this is something that creates a real distance.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't believe in that either. First of all, we go through these bad experiences, which is exactly, again, why is it occurring? Because we are imbalanced. This word is imbalanced. But as we are living here in physicality, we need both approaches. We need both the physical approach of trying to help people. So if somebody is a horrible offender, I am by no means saying or implying that this person should go scot-free and there should be no consequences for their actions. There should be physical, in this world, consequences for that person because we're helping that person. But it should not come from anger and hatred and pure punitive. It should come from trying to help and change this person because that helps us in the long run better. We're doing really more for ourselves trying to help somebody to change than to just be in vengeance. That's the point. But is somebody choosing to be raped? No. The other person had made a choice and one person becomes a victim. Could it be karma? I don't know. But that doesn't make it right. But for the person that these awful things happen to, forgiveness and compassion will heal them faster than anger and resentment. And again, that is something we may need to live through to understand and to grow into, have greater enlightenment about dealing with the often inevitable events of a lifetime with a greater understanding and not allowing ourselves to become a victim, but a survivor and a winner. It's just a different attitude how you look at an event that everybody will go through horrible events in their lives. There is no way around it. It's just how we deal with it changes the equation. But I completely agree with you that people who are horrible offenders should be held accountable. I agree with you.
Excellent. And as you're speaking, it also brings to mind for me that your book is a great deal about how we deal with this on our individual basis. So all of this chaos that we see in the world is also taking place inside of our own mind. And that, to me, is the field, the ground, as you described, where this transformation can take place. So maybe you could contextualize the chaos of the world to the chaos we experience through sort of the tyranny of our mind.
It starts with the smallest things, and every one of us, I'm sure, has done it. You wake up, you're happy, you get in your car, and you're stuck in traffic, or somebody cuts you off, and you get enraged. And you're not even sure, often you don't even realize it because it passes you so quickly. But there's a negative tone that has been set for the day. There's something that occurred that could possibly switch your entire day. Sometimes we have these little thoughts. Human beings have between 50 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Most of them are the secondary thoughts that we are unaware of. But very often we have these little thoughts, these little triggers that, again, change our day. So we become negative. We're watching the news, and if that doesn't push you over the edge, I don't know what will. But so these are all stimuli that we're getting. You have a bad day at work, you have a customer that calls, is not happy. It all sets the negativity. If we allow it to enter us, and we send it right back out by sharing more negativity through return anger or frustration or creating more hatred in the world, then we are perpetuating this negativity and we're sending it out into the universe, truly infecting other people. I compare it to the flu or the cold. When you get the virus, it goes through you and it comes back out through your coughs and sneezes. Do you affect others? Yes, of course you do. You affect and infect others. And thoughts are really the same way. They travel. We are not aware that that is the case, but it truly is. If there is telepathy, then yes, there is something that thoughts travel. They enter not only other people, but they go into the atmosphere. They go into our oxygen, the atmosphere of the earth. It sounds far-fetched, but we are all energy. And so one energy gets involved and invades the other energy. With having said that, so therefore we're adding more of this negativity, we're perpetuating, and making it worse. It's like the cyclical event of something. The only way to break that is by becoming aware of these little negative thoughts, these flashpoints, and then we can take those, also self-doubt and low self-esteem, and all of those are negative. They affect us. And the only way to change that is by, number one, becoming aware of them. Secondly, don't judge them. Don't criticize them. Don't put yourself down for them, because very often they are, again, the negative stimuli that we're getting, and we are now acknowledging that we see it. We are aware it's there. Then we can start neutralizing it with love and letting go of it. So through the neutralizing and love, we change its structure. And then we can consciously reverse it and make it positive. Consciously put love and light into it and send it out. And then I come back to the fact that we become better at this when we are meditating and being in daily contact with our greater strengths, our source, because that changes our frequency. And we are already starting to get these layers of protection against the very lowest of negative thoughts and the negative influences that invade us and burden us unnecessarily. So it really elevates our frequency. And that's how I see that we can each and every day become more and more aware and consciously changing ourselves from within, putting light into our heart and changing our thoughts and sending them out really dry clean, sending them out nicely cleaned and back out, and change our existence.
Excellent. And as you were speaking, I totally resonate with what you were saying. And I work with people as well on an energetic level. And what I find is that people have, in a manner of speaking, inherited these negative tendencies through life experiences, early life experiences from their parents, maybe even through the DNA. And then we have a society in which the negative energy is reinforced through the media and through various forms of systematic control. So how do you advise people to begin to take those first steps away? Because in many ways, all a person knows is that they're suffering. They don't know what it means. They don't know why. They're just suffering because the negativity, the mind negativity, translates into their physiology and spirituality in the body, where, you know, the heart is broken, there's a lot of sorrow, there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of fear. So all of these emotions are emanating from these thoughts that, to me, in a way, seem more like programmed thoughts than having anything to do with the essence of the person.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's a long-winded question, but how do people begin to emerge from that, from the point of completely not understanding, just seeking to relieve their pain? And, you know, we don't have to rush through this. I think that you're presenting information that's very valuable to our listeners.
Well, coming back to my point, at my low point, it was that I needed to become, first of all, I had to really go more within, and through the going within, I had to reach out to the greatest strengths that we all have, that we very often negate, and we often think that it's more complicated, that we have to sit either in churches or temples or what have you. We have God really truly within ourselves. So our greatest strength is inside of us, but most people are unaware of it. When I started realizing this, I thought that it was very, almost to the point of arrogant, that I said to myself, I am God, I am part of God. That sounds awful. But when you think about it differently, I find it more acceptable to say I am a part of God, and therefore I have far greater powers than I allow myself to believe. It's also to make a decision that you have reached a point where you have had enough of suffering. You've had enough of being a victim, be it of your own doing or outside forces, whatever the case may be. But you have to reach a point, you have to say, okay, now what? I need to change. And there are, to me, the first thing is that you need to start meditating. I find it, even with 5 minutes, a 5-minute meditation, because I think it's like a muscle. If you start with too much, you get discouraged. Your thoughts are running through your head like crazy. Most importantly, what should I buy for dinner? Those ridiculous thoughts that we all have. Oh, I didn't call so-and-so, all those little things. But it is with practice that your mind will calm down. And it changes the energy from within that is almost inexplicable. And again, also with the meditation, don't overcomplicate it. Sit down, 5 minutes, start with 5 minutes, preferably 5 in the morning, 5 in the evening, where you decompose, you calm down, you try to think of nothing. Start with concentrating on an object and then move on to, you can do a mantra, repeat a mantra, and calm your mind. And you will notice how different your energy becomes. It's phenomenal, and it is such a benefit. It's better than any medication that you can take to calm yourself down. It really is. And then I really would have to say, then there is work involved. Anything that we do does require an effort and an action. I personally would suggest to start reading and to get involved in books on spirituality, on whatever attracts the person, whatever attracts them, to go towards it. Let the guides lead you to where your path is, what you should be reading. I do think that we have to read, and we have to become more open-minded and educated if you want to find answers. Of course, with an open heart and the continued meditation. And then it is that we have to become, it has to become a process that we become aware of what we see, not judge, and be loving towards those things. Forgiveness, love, compassion. And we do the same thing to us. So we start with ourselves. I call it be positively selfish. Heal yourself first. Do something on the spiritual level for yourself. Again, must include reading, because that's what great wisdom is. There are so many books that just share so much wisdom and uplifting words that can carry us through an entire day, better than any Valium or what have you. So those would be my suggestion to start a change. And there is I call it my I am. And as we know, that is God's name. But it's also, it's a way that you do it. There's the idea first, idea or thoughts. And then comes action. You have to add action to the thought, which creates the M, which is movement and mindfulness. And it becomes creation. So you become the creator of your own world, your better life. And it is always from within. But now that we've spoken so much about the within, you cannot not take care of the physical of the body either. You must take care of your body. Eat well, exercise, make yourself look good. Take care of your body, because, again, we live in the physical world. We have to have a balance between the spiritual and the physical. There has to be a harmony between the two.
That's very excellent. And I just want to remind people that you're listening to Heart of Mind Radio for the New Millennium. And my guest, Marina Shakour Haber, is the author of Dream a Better Dream, Change Your Mind, and Save the World. And I've been doing this for a long time, Marina, and I would recommend your book, actually, as one of those books you were describing, because you take this discussion into a very real, essential, heartfelt space, but also very, very practical. And I think that this is what we need in this time when the divine, guess the divine I am, is looking to us, and we're looking to each other to change this reality, to change this illusion. And so we really need to heal ourselves and heal each other. And so I definitely recommend that people find this book, Dream a Better Dream, Change Your Mind, and Save the World. Marina Shakour Haber, Marina Shakour Haber. And you can go to her website, dreamabetterdreamnow.com. So I just wanted to get that out there so that people sometimes tune in late. I want to let them know what we're talking about. And I have another question as well, or at least a thought.
Yes.
We live in a world that is considered to be a duality, and you do speak about that in your book, the duality. But from my perspective, the world kind of looks at the duality as good and evil. And I've always, or at least I've come to think of the duality as physical and spirit. And so more in the yin-yang sign is that we're more designed to intermingle and weave through our lives as physical, as spirit, as physical, as spirit. And then maybe it's the getting stuck on one end of that created the dynamic of good and evil.
Well, we do need duality. It's essential. But we have made it duality. Very often we confuse that with good versus evil. And I looked at it and I said, everything needs opposing and opposing energy. When you look at our physical bodies, we have the inhale and the exhale. We have ingestion and digestion. We have the blood moving up and it's moving down and it's moving up to create the circle with, again, the dot, the heart in the center. Everything is reflected. Everything seems to be running on precisely that system, that formula. It's the in and the out, the two opposite energies. When you look at a battery, it has the positive and the negative, and it has to be in perfect balance. It could not run, it could not provide energy if there were not both charges there. When I look at our situation in Washington, yes, we do need the duality of the two parties, but there is no need to be in hostility. It should be in harmony. So in many mythologies, in the Greek mythology, it started that the human being was at the beginning of our civilization. Male and female energies were one. We were one unit, and then the gods were angry with us, and they split us in half. And from then on, male was looking for the female and vice versa to complement the lacking energy to make it whole again. And then there is the Hindu mythology where the gods were angry with man and they hid the divinity instead of looking for a place in the earth and in the waters or in the mountains. They hid it within the heart. So when you put it all together, there it is. That's who we are. The divinity is within our heart, and we have to have both the male, the female, the positive, the negative energies within ourselves. And we need both of them to move them forward. We need one energy to move the other energy forward. You look at a zipper. It has the two sides, and they are at opposite levels. And then you have, at the bottom, you stick it into the male and female, and you zip it up. And that's how thought and action moves. The same way, you have two sides. And we should be thankful that somebody has, for example, an alternate opinion. We should be very grateful because that helps us to look at other possibilities. If we are stuck and this is the only way it is, we will never be enlightened, we will never change, because we say we are stagmatic, we are stuck. I feel that it is a blessing that we have different people, we have different races, different religions. I think instead of making it a weakness, and we've created so much suffering through all of that, we should look at it, what a blessing and how refreshing, because that's precisely what it was supposed to be. Each one is a different expression of another perspective of God from a different angle. So, yes, in duality, we will go far. We will create the whole. But it has to be balanced duality. And that's, again, we're coming back to this world where there is the great imbalance. There's too much physicality and insufficient spiritual energy.
Yes, I totally understand and agree with that. And as you are talking to people about how they can go forward to create this elevated energy, you touch on some things, including getting connected to a person's guides. You talk about energy centers, the light of the body, the auras, the chakras, and other things that people can consider and connect to beyond this just internal struggle of thinking and then trying to counter-think. Can you talk briefly about some of these more expanded ways that people can cultivate their inner transformation?
How they can cultivate their inner transformation. Again, it comes back to knowledge. Grow, listen to radio stations like yours, because it's the constant uplifting information, enlightened messages that changes our vibration and the frequency that we are on. I would highly recommend that there are plenty of lectures that are given, workshops that are given, that show us different aspects of our being that we are unaware of, that we have no knowledge of. I like connecting to the spirit world because, again, I feel that that's our invisible support team. And I constantly speak to my guides. And I have to be honest, sometimes I'm quite frustrated with the fact that I'm not as psychic as I wish I would be, but there has to be a purpose, because maybe I needed to search for it on a different level, so I accept it the way it is. Not that I don't continue striving to improve upon it, but it is for me the fact that I know that I have spirit guides and angels and helpers and masters and teachers around me, and I'm now trying, because I have become so much more involved, gone to a more spiritual level, that I hear their voices telling me, do this, do that, write. I sit down, especially when I write, I meditate for a moment and collect my thoughts. And I have to tell you that it flows through me much easier now, and it's like I have helpers being there and helping me to write it better and to get different ideas. So I do cultivate that on a daily basis. I listen to my voices. I test. I allow them to guide me. So it's... The other day I had a question and I sat down and I was told, take a piece of paper, start writing, and I started writing. Another time I didn't want to go to a certain place, and that voice inside of me drove me crazy, so I said, okay, I'm going. So I did, and it was a good thing. It happened to be the right decision. So I said, okay, I guess you were right. I started doing it because that's what my mother used to say. Start with asking your friends. She called the spirit guides her friends. She said, call them to help you with finding a parking spot. I learned that you have to ask like 15 to 20 minutes ahead of time. Ask them. I've read someplace that they said, what a waste of time. I don't find it a waste of time of asking them to help me. It helped me to validate that, yes, they are there. I just need to reach out, connect with them, ask them for help, be specific in what I want, not that wishy-washy, I want a better life. Tell me specifically, what would you like to change? If you have to become specific, you actually make yourself understand what's wrong with your life. What's wrong with your life? You have to analyze your life. You have to be the one that says, I don't like my relationship. I don't like my job. I don't like me. Then you reach out for help and you will get specific guidance. You will get the help that you're asking for. But you do have a part in it. You are the 50-50 partner. Set out, ask what you want, but be specific. Also, I'm putting timelines on it. I'm saying I want to, at this point, I'm saying I want to sell so and so many books by that time of the year. Be specific. Put out a specific goal and connect with your guides. Talk to them. Open the channels of communication. It's an essential support of incredible value to your life and the improvement of who you are. It's the support team that no doctors or nurses or what have can give you. They don't have the time. But these are the spirits that you have attracted, and you attract better and better ones. The more elevated your thoughts become, the more refined you become on a spiritual level. Because the higher energies cannot handle lower thoughts or more negative thinking. They are shunned by it. So the better your thoughts are, the higher the spirits you attract to yourself, and the better it is for you and what you do for others.
Well, that's excellent, and we're coming close to the end of our time here, and I just wanted to remind people again that we are speaking about the new book, Dream a Better Dream, Change Your Mind and Save the World by Marina Shakour Haber. I would like for you to, as we are closing up, to really address this concept of dream a better dream and give people any information or thoughts you'd like to finish up with, even if it is how they can access your book or how to use the book to take this journey.
The title Dream a Better Dream came to me as I look around the world and I am looking at climate change. I'm seeing our world, the only place we have to live on. I see it suffering. I see the hurricanes that we experienced last year, the fires, the floods, the droughts, the human suffering, the migrations. All of that, I look at it and it pains me. And so the thing that we can do is in our meditations, in our visualizations, we can dream a better dream of a better world. Visualize the perfect world of harmony, of peace, of love. Visualize a healthy climate that we are not suffering from and that we are not adding to this world's suffering because we are doing it. That came to me when I decided on the title. So to me, it is of such essence that we care for our world, that we love our world, and equally love ourselves and love people that are around us, even if we don't like them, because there is a slight difference between liking and loving. We can love them although we don't like them, because it's love that heals. So that was my thought for the book. Change your visualization of this earth. make it a better world through the mind. And that is really the only way for all of us to live better, to live happier. And if again coming to the website, they can access my website. It's dreamabetterdreamnow.com, and can get the book through my website, and it connects to Amazon.
That is excellent, and I do recommend people look deeper into this. For those of you who may not have gotten that information, you can also go to the archive page at prn.fm, click on the Heart of Mind page, and you'll find this material right here and a link to the website. And that's another way to make that connection. And I would also invite you to share this interview. When you go there, you can listen again. You can download, you can send a link to your friends to share this interview, because from my perspective, Marina, part of the work that you're doing is a shared project, and we all can begin to expand this idea by expanding the information and letting people in our lives know that this is something that we can really do, and we don't have to stand by and feel disempowered and hopeless about the state of the world. So I'm really very happy and very grateful that you wrote this book.
Thank you.
Yes. So I will say so long for now, and hopefully we will speak again on this. I would like to expand on it in perhaps the next time around, take some listener calls for people. So that might be something very fun and interesting to do. And so I will speak to you again. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Kathryn.
You're welcome. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
And you are listening to Heart of Mind, radio for the new millennium. I'm Kathryn Davis, and this has been really a very interesting interview for me, because it's been something of a struggle to be a part of the spiritual movement, or so-called New Age movement, because of this tendency to separate away from the reality that many people experience. And I often see people who have economic stability moving out into a world, creating a dynamic in which they can increase their economic abundance. But I don't see that there's a critical mass with regard to transforming the world so that all can benefit, so that everyone can move into this higher space. And while I can easily see that some people may very well be motivated and called to have primarily a spiritual focus, to do the meditation, the visualization, to expand that energy into the world. There are times when I am resonating with that particular action, but I do feel that it's important that we pay attention to the negativity, in the sense that if we don't pay attention to it, we won't see it and how it's reflected within ourselves, with our own denial and our own blame and our own shame. So it's really important to dissect all of this within ourselves so that we can engage in a more effective level in the transformation of our world. And I have certainly had this kind of experience where I have been in a state of deep meditation, mostly connecting with nature, that might be with the elements, the trees, the clouds. For me, the clouds are very powerful. But when you really expand your vibration with the vibration of the natural world, it takes you into a much more elevated space, and it allows you to transform the field that's around you. It allows you to change the energy of the people around you, because everything gets lifted and it is an experiential thing that I recommend very highly, that to understand and to experience that lifting of energy with the help of the natural world. And I find that with the help of the natural world, I can expand into the energetic field of the human collective, and the resonance expands, and really does change and transform things. So I highly recommend this kind of meditation. And as we finish up with the program, I also wanted to give you an opportunity to connect with me and my work, as well as the work of all of these beautiful healers and authors that we bring on the air. And you can email heartofmindradio@gmail.com, heartofmindradio@gmail.com. And for those of you who want to connect deeper into the work that I do here, I would recommend going to the energy website, qigongonline.net, qigongonline.net. And the healing website is Kathryn.1, KATHRYN.1. And I have a blog, an interactive blog, and it's called bodyascension.wordpress.com. And also a monthly newsletter called Connect with Kathryn, though I have to admit it's probably more every other month or every third month. But in any case, if you want to make these connections, rather than scrambling to write it all down, I invite you to go to prn.fm, the website, look up the show page for Heart of Mind Radio, and you will see there links to all of this media so that you can make a deeper connection into this work. And I invite you to do that by going to the prn.fm Heart of Mind page, or to email to request general information, heartofmindradio@gmail.com, heartofmindradio@gmail.com. I invite you to stay tuned for more great programming here over this network. There's always something interesting, fascinating, and educational, as well as inspirational on prn.fm. So stay tuned for more. And I invite you to tune in again on Saturday at 6 p.m. for Heart of Mind Radio for the New Millennium. I'm Kathryn Davis. I wish you many blessings and grace as we move forward in this ever-changing world. Bye for now.